Dear friends, sisters and brothers, today I would like to talk to you about full moon day of July. In Buddhist countries, especially in Sri Lanka, people call this day is Asala full moon day. That is, the name comes from Indian calendar. This full moon day, July full moon day, is very important day of Buddhist calendar. As we all know, the Buddha was born as a prince on a full moon day of Vesak or May. After 35 years, he attained enlightenment. That means he became the Buddha. So that day is a full moon day of May. That is why we all value that day as a very important full moon day. When we think of July full moon, also very important to Buddhists, because although Buddha's birth happened on May full moon day, the Dhamma came to the world, or spreading the Dhamma started in the world full moon day of July. After attaining enlightenment on a Vesak full moon day, the Buddha spent 7 weeks under the Bodhi tree and nearby in certain places. That time, that short period of time he spent mainly for practicing meditation and experiencing the happiness and liberation of freedom he achieved after 6 years of struggle. So he was very happy of his liberation, very happy about his great achievement. That is why he spent a short period to experience that great happiness. But after that, he decided to preach his Dhamma to the world. He thought he realized this Dhamma after a long years of struggle. Even in previous lives he had practiced great virtues, which we call 10 paramitas or 10 perfections. So he thought, I have achieved my goal, but I must help others to attain that same goal. He thought in that way because of his great compassion. On the other hand, he thought of the difficulty of understanding this Dhamma. He can preach, but he thought people are involved with worldly work, worldly affairs. So for them to understand this Dhamma may not be easier. Therefore, at the very beginning, he hesitated a bit. After that, he again thought, I have realized this Dhamma mainly to help others to uh, achieve freedom from worldly suffering. So I should preach this Dhamma. There may be some people who have some wisdom to understand my teaching and attain enlightenment. So with that kind thought, he decided to preach this Dhamma to the world. At that time, he came to know 5 ascetics. They were former colleagues of him when he was practicing meditation. So he thought he wanted to find them and preach his first sermon. At that time, they were staying in a place called Isipatana in Benares. So he started a journey, long journey to meet them. In the end, he met them in that place called Isipatana in Benares. At the beginning, he had some difficulties to get their attention to listen to his first sermon. When he met them, they did not know the Buddha had attained enlightenment or he is the Buddha. He thought he is still the former colleague. So after a while, he managed to convince them about his great achievement, which we call enlightenment. Then they were ready to listen to his sermon. That is how the Buddha started his first sermon at Isipatana in Benares. That great sutra is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Sutra of Wheel Turning. In that sutra, the Buddha had categorized all the teaching he had realized and preached to those 5 ascetics. Then they realize the Dhamma, they appreciate teachings of the Buddha and mention to the Buddha their liking to be disciples of the Buddha. In the end, the Buddha ordained those 5 disciples, then did further preaching, then they all attained enlightenment. So we call they are the first 5 disciples of the Buddha. Here, what is very important is the Buddha started his mission or spreading his Dhamma with 5 disciples, not with a very big crowd, but that beginning was a very great beginning. That was the time or beginning point of bringing freedom, spiritual freedom to the world. During the Buddha's time, so they all were willing to listen to the Buddha and follow his teaching. As a result of that, his teaching became the main teaching of people who lived in many kingdoms in India during that time. In a way, we can say, during 45 years of Buddha's great mission, Buddhism spread in most of parts of India, and people got the benefit of his teaching. On this occasion, I would like to direct your attention towards one of the most important features or characteristic of Buddha's teaching. When we compare teachings of the Buddha with other religious teaching, we can find some differences. We can find certain similarities also, but we can see some special characteristics of teachings of the Buddha. Some religions paid a pessimistic look or approach towards their teaching. They taught us, that means certain religions taught us, everything is not present in this world. World is very unpleasant, with full of suffering, full of negative things which are happening in our life. So world is pessimistic. We should try to get rid of this world as early as possible. Must find a world somewhere we can live with full of happiness. This is the view of followers of certain religions. Then there is another group of followers of religions. They said world is optimistic, everything is very good, pleasant. We can make this world a world with full of happiness. So they pray to some powers, some gods, wishing to have a happiness in this world without any suffering, because they believe suffering can be eradicated totally and find total happiness in this world and hereafter. That is optimistic way of looking at the world. But the Buddha denied these two aspects, pessimistic aspect towards the world and optimistic aspect towards the world. Buddha denied, saying world is not totally pessimistic or with total suffering. And he also refused to accept the idea of the world, which he refused to accept the idea of world is with full of happiness. That means optimistic approach towards the world. What the Buddha had was realistic opinion about the world. He looked at the world in a realistic way and asked his followers to understand and develop that wisdom towards the world. World is not with full of suffering. World is not with full of happiness. World has both. Sometimes when we look at the world and our lives, we can see suffering or dukkha exists in this world. On the other hand, we have happiness also in this world. So the Buddha wanted to see this realistic situation of the world. In his first sermon, that means Dhammaratana Sutta he delivered, in his first sermon, he has mentioned necessary teaching for people to understand his approach, which we call realistic approach. His first sermon, he mentioned about dukkha in this world. Dukkha means absence of happiness. So in our life, we can't say we have happiness all the time. Sometimes we experience unhappiness. That means sometimes we have absence of happiness. But it doesn't mean we experience only unhappiness. We experience happiness also. Happiness of family life, happiness of friendship, happiness. In his first sermon, the Buddha said, world is with dukkha. It doesn't mean in this world only dukkha or unhappiness exists. According to teaching of the Buddha, unhappiness is very obvious in this world, but there is happiness also. Happiness of friendship, happiness of mental calmness, happiness of having what we want. In that way, we can see happiness in this world. People experience some happiness. But on the other hand, we have disappointment. Sometimes we want to achieve something, yet we are unable to achieve them. Sometimes we have to live with situations which are not favorable for us. So like this, we experience unhappiness also. So we have happiness and unhappiness in this world. That's why Buddha said, world is with. Then we can say we are successful Buddhist. So we must work hard with special energy to achieve that goal. Thank you all.